Cover letters and recruiters is the topic for today's career tip. So Mara asks, I have a number of recruiters reach out to me about roles they are filling. All of them say no cover letter as they want to fast track my application. Most of them want a hybrid format to just highlight relevant experience and say cover letter is not necessary. When I do this, there are holes in my employment history. Without a cover letter, I am unable to explain what those are. Do recruiters explain to prospective employers what they see on LinkedIn? What are your thoughts? So when I saw this question, I really loved the specificity of it. And it has a couple of elements to it. So one is just about the cover letter and whether or not they're necessary. But then two is about your relationship as a job seeker with recruiters. When recruiters tell you to do something, in this case, not submit a cover letter, is it best to just go along? Is it better to push back? Even if you do push back, are they going to listen to you? And so it's that relationship between the recruiter and the job seeker. So let's unpack this. Cover letters are important, even if no one reads them. So if the recruiter doesn't want one, should you still submit one? Well, you can. It's just unclear if it's going to actually get to the person that it needs to get to. That being said, if you think that it's important, I would suggest that you put one together and decide that you're going to get it to the people who need to read it. And if you don't think that they're important, I would still encourage you to try and put one together. And here's why. I find that the cover letter, and this is from 20 plus years in recruiting, I find that the cover letter is a really good synthesis of how you think about yourself and what you think about the job and the overlap between these two things. It is probably the best tool for putting together what your selling proposition essentially is for this role. So you definitely want to know how to put one together and put some thought into it. They are important. That being said, this is about what's a recruiter going to do with that cover letter. And recruiters are individual people. They have their own way of working. They might have already confirmed with their client, the prospective employer, how they want to do the hiring process. And maybe the cover letter is not a part of that. And so I would follow their process if you are working directly with them. But again, that doesn't preclude you from, when you're in the interview process, when you're meeting other people that are not through the recruiter, that you share your cover letter. And so the recruiter has their way of working, you have your way of working. And I would work as well as you can with the recruiter, but I would not let that only dictate your strategy. And then finally, and this is part of having your way of doing things, you want to pursue multiple routes to your dream job. Even if you're working with a recruiter for a specific employer, you also want to see who else do you know in that employer? What relationships do you already have? And whether or not the recruiter thinks that you should submit a cover letter, if you feel strongly that there's information in there that you want people to have, again, I would find the people that you're going to share this letter with. But similar to having multiple people that you are talking about to get this job, you also want to have multiple marketing tools in play. And so if you are so hell-bent on, gosh, they need to see this cover letter in order to explain holes in my background, well, again, some recruiters, some prospective employers, they're just not going to read your letter. And so you need to be thinking about, how else am I going to plug those holes, whether that be in the way that I introduce myself, the interview responses that I give, the extra networking and exploratory meetings that I take on, because I know that there are things about my story that I have to explain face-to-face, voice-to-voice, and not just rely on a letter that you're honestly not sure that anybody is going to read. So really what you want to be looking at are, how many tools are you using to land a job? Yes, use the cover letter when you can. Yes, rely on recruiters when you can, but also rely on your resume, your online profile, the networking meetings that you are able to set up for yourself. You want to use as many tools at your disposal as possible in order to land the job that you love.